This is Todos Cafeteros, and today I'm covering Matchday 11 and 12 of the CONMEBOL 2026 World Cup Qualifiers, focusing on the two Colombian games that happened here in November of 2024. First one, an away game in Montevideo in Uruguay that Colombia unfortunately lost, and the second game on Matchday 12 against Ecuador in Barranquilla in Colombia that they also lost. So I want to dig deeper into what happened in those games, why they lost, and what can be expected of next year, 2025, where Colombia will have 6 more qualifying matches that will determine whether they will travel to the 2026 World Cup in United States, Mexico, and Canada. So let's dive right in. On Friday, November 15th, Colombia played against Uruguay in Montevideo. They lost 3-2. Let's start with the formations. There were mainly 3 changes in the starting 11, all throughout the center. Nestor Lorenzo decided to play without James. It's a little bit of a different system. John Duran as a single forward, Lucho left, Rios right winger, offensive midfield, Quintero, which is a change compared to previous games. Defensive midfielder was Portilla, who played instead of Lerma. Portilla and Quintero both play in Argentina, in the Argentinian league. And Quintero was the one who brought Colombia up 1-0 to lead in the game. In my opinion, the defense was playing in their best possible formation from left to right. Mujica, Lucumi, Sanchez, and Munoz. For Uruguay, the big controversy, Núñez played. Núñez was suspended initially for 5 games after the Copa America events where he was brutally attacking fans. The suspension followed the game against Colombia that should have continued throughout this game, but his suspension was paused pending an appeal. So he was eligible to play. Like, what the heck? Like, he just puts in an appeal and the suspension is lifted. Anyways, he was playing here. And with regards to what happened on the field, just giving you the game highlights. Right from the beginning, you see the pitch quality here in Montevideo being horrible. The grass came apart. The pitch was very difficult to play on. But nevertheless, Colombia way too unorganized without James. The number 10, the organizer in central midfield, was missing, and you could see it, you could feel it. The team didn't find its means to create a proper build-up. So lots of uncontrolled situations, lots of chaos. The defense, though, was stable as ever. Despite that fact, Uruguay had big chances in the first half. Here in the 27th minute, a huge chance. And then we see the goal in the 31st minute. Colombia goes up 1-0 by this wonderful free kick here by Quintero. When the wall lined up, I thought to myself, well, most likely John Arias will shoot it, will take the free kick. But Quintero really has the better perspective, the better way to attempt a goal with his left foot, instead of John Arias passing it high into the box. But I thought there's no way they let Quintero shoot this free kick. They will have the veteran John Arias take it. But no, they proved me wrong and kind of also read my mind. Quintero takes it direct with the left. The goalkeeper was off, the wall was off. 1-0 for Colombia, wonderful goal here. In the second half, Uruguay came better into the game, came better out of the halftime, and they scored first, or should I say, Colombia scored themselves into their own goal. Own goal by Sanchez in the 57th minute. And then we get the double bang bang here with Aguirre in the 60th minute passing the entire Colombian defense, letting them stand by the side. 2-1 for Uruguay. A very unfortunate event here. In the 72nd minute, both James and Borré entered the game, but couldn't really change the style of how the team played that much anymore. Towards the end, total chaos ensued. And so you have those crazy events happening in extra time, where you have Colombia tying the game 2-2 in the 96th minute, a goal by Gomez. And in the 101st minute, 11 minutes into extra time, Uruguay uses that chaos now for themselves, in that case, to make it 3-2. So a very chaotic end phase in this game that both teams used, but due to Uruguay being up already 2-1, then the 2-2, 3-2, they win this game. The takeaways from this are, to me, Nestor Lorenzo keeps testing different formations and players. That's okay, I guess, as long as you're sure you're going to qualify for the World Cup. Because with that strategy, he kind of keeps throwing games away. We saw that against Bolivia. We saw that here against Uruguay, where he's testing a little bit too much, keeping James out from the beginning. And then you have a complete different style of play. I get what he's trying to do. He can't be sure that James will be playing in the World Cup 2 years from now. But the team is not the same. It's not the same without James. So you might kind of have to put your chips on the table and say, no, we're going to do this with James in 2 years. And if we have to send him into a special training camp to stay healthy and to stay fit, to keep his stamina up. But that's your best bet here. Nestor Lorenzo trying to play without James to see how the team feels, but it's not working. At least not yet. I guess he will keep testing it until it does work, because eventually he will have to make the switch at the latest after the World Cup. That being said, it's getting tighter, because also against Ecuador, they didn't gather any points. We'll get into that later, but you can't keep doing that and then kind of slide down in the table, being just a few points away from elimination. But in the end, just to wrap up the game against Uruguay, it was a very chaotic game. Colombia could have gotten a point out of this. They didn't. So I would think they would have learned for the next one, a home game against Ecuador in Barranquilla. But no, they didn't. I think this game was even worse, because this time they played with kind of their best possible formation. I would have put Lerma in, but we'll get to that in a second. But with one more man on the pitch for most of the game, not being able to win at home against Ecuador kind of was the big surprise here, more so than the Uruguayan game. But let's dive right in. On Tuesday, November 19th in Barranquilla, as I said, Colombia lost 0-1 against Ecuador. The team went into this game with a formation that saw James and Cordoba back in the starting 11. And of the new players that made it into the starting 11 against Uruguay, only Portilla remained. So looking at the players' average positions here, it kind of became clear what the system, what the strategy was by Nestor Lorenzo. And as always, Vargas in goal. We have the defensive for the back four with Sanchez and Lucumi as central defenders. And then over the right, Munoz, over the left, Mojica, that were pushing forwards in possession, with possession of the ball. They kind of made the game wide, sprinting over the sides and kind of being fluent here between defending and attacking. Defensive midfielders, we had Rios and Portilla. Kind of, instead of Lerma, Rios was bound a little bit more towards the back, without that security there of Lerma. But Portilla kind of earned his spot. Nestor Lorenzo felt that Portilla had owned that spot and remained in the starting 11. We have James now finally from beginning as number 10 in the number 10 position. Over left, as always, Lucho. Over right, John Arias. And Cordoba is back in the starting 11 as the central forward. The substitutions later towards the game, towards the end here, with Quintero, we saw Duran coming in and Gomez over right, just towards the end, and didn't make a big impact here. Highlights of the game. The Colombian defense wasn't paying attention early on. 0-1 by Valencia only in the 7th minute. A very early setback here for the team of Nestor Lorenzo. The winning goal, basically. Not much happened. I mean, a lot of things happened after the goal, but no more goals. There was the 1-0 victory by Ecuador, already scored in the 7th minute. Then you saw a bunch of chances being missed by Colombia, specifically Cordoba, who became a meme after this game. Cordoba not being able to put it away to score some goals here. He missed a huge chance in the 29th minute. Unbelievable how he missed that. Then Ecuador got a red card in the 34th minute, which should have made this a more lopsided game, which Colombia kept attacking. In the 42nd minute, Lucho hits it against the post. In the 59th minute, a huge chance here for Arias. And then Quintero and Duran came on for Rios and Arias. And we have another huge chance towards the end by James in the 86th minute with a dangerous header. All to no avail. The game ended, as mentioned, 0-1 from the Colombian perspective. And Nestor Lorenzo's team, after those 2 games in November 2024, came out with 0 points out of both games. I have no idea how they lost the game against Ecuador. As I mentioned, Cordoba became kind of a meme for his missed chances, but it wasn't his fault alone. I think the rest of the team could have scored some goals here too. This game could have easily ended 3-1. It didn't. And so my takeaways are that they tried, they pushed, they were the better team, but in the end, they had a lot of bad luck and lack of skill in some cases, not making even 1 goal. And so Ecuador took those points away. In the table, after 12 games, we see Argentina still ahead of the table, top of the table, followed by Uruguay. Ecuador in 3rd, even though, keep in mind, they got 3 points deducted. So without those 3 points deduction, they would have been in 2nd. But now they are in 3rd, 1 position higher than Colombia, that are in 4th still, just because Brazil couldn't win against Uruguay and against Venezuela. Both of those games ended 1-1. So Brazil only with 2 points. They closed the gap to Colombia, but couldn't pass them. And then we have Paraguay, Bolivia, Venezuela, Chile, and Peru at the tail end. There's a bigger gap here between Chile and Peru towards Venezuela, Bolivia, and a little bit of a gap between Bolivia and Paraguay, but it's only 6 points between Colombia and spot 7. That doesn't necessarily guarantee direct qualification. They'll have to go through an additional playoff round, which the team will want to avoid. Seeing what happened to Peru in the last World Cup qualifying stage there, where they wouldn't make it in the end. But those are the qualifying matches that the CONMEBOL Federation played in 2024. There are 6 more World Cup qualifying games in 2025. Next year in March, there are 2, in June are 2, and in September, the last remaining 2. Colombia will play their next game against Brazil in Brazil on March 19th, 2025, before the home game against Paraguay on March 26th in Barranquilla. I'll be there to cover those events. Subscribe to Todos Cafeteros if you're interested in Colombian football content in English here. I want to say thank you for watching, for joining me and taking this journey alongside with me. Again, like this video, please subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content. We'll look at the Colombian team here at the very latest next year when we're in Brazil, if not before, if there are other relevant matches to cover. Until next time, I'm out.